Some fear death, others pray for it. A haunting paradox etched in the heart of Silent Hill, where the boundaries between life and death, reality and illusion dissolve into a fog of uncertainty. In this place, death is not merely an end, it is a question. What does it mean to long for an escape, yet tremble at the terror of oblivion? Few embody this paradox as painfully as Maria and Mary, two women tethered by their shared tragedy, yet divided by their desires. One clings to life with desperate fragility, a reflection of desire and denial brought to life. The other, ravaged by illness, begs for release, her soul wearied by the weight of suffering. Together, they reveal the duality of mortality, the way we all live between fear and acceptance, longing and loss. Yet, where one tragic tale ends, another one begins. The story of Silent Hill 2 sets James Sunderland on his harrowing path of self-reconciliation for the murder of his wife Mary. This journey begins and ends in Silent Hill, a mysterious and eerie town that manifests the deep-seated fears, guilt, and traumas of those who enter it, weaving a personalized and nightmarish reality unique to each visitor. On his journey, James encounters only a handful of characters, yet each plays a crucial role in the overarching narrative centered on his emotional turmoil. First, he meets Angela in the cemetery near the outskirts of Silent Hill. There, she is standing near a gravestone, and their conversation amidst the somber fog and eerie silence offers a glimpse at the deeper themes of trauma and restlessness that will unfold as the story progresses. Not long after, James meets Laura, a young girl whose carefree demeanor sharply contrasts with every other character he encounters. She is seemingly unaffected by the town's horrors, but their short interaction hints at her deeper connection to Mary. Then there is Eddie, hunched over a toilet inside a grimy restroom. His defensive attitude and cryptic remarks suggest a deeper, darker truth lurking beneath the surface. Lastly, near the fog-drenched pier of Rosewater Park, James comes face to face with Maria. She appears suddenly, bearing an uncanny resemblance to his late wife Mary, yet with subtle differences in her appearance and demeanor. Her presence in the story complicates James's journey, offering insight into his psyche while also challenging the player's understanding of what is real and what is imagined. Just as every other interaction, setting, and event in Silent Hill 2, Maria's character is carefully crafted to contribute to its overarching themes of guilt, grief, and human frailty. And amidst the many intricate layers of meaning, symbolism, and psychological depth, stands out as a character loaded with thematic significance. To understand Maria is to unravel a crucial thread in the tapestry of Silent Hill 2. A thread that pulls us deeper into James Sunderland's nightmare and forces us to confront our own fears of life and death, the inescapability of trauma, and the destructive consequences of living in denial. However, Maria does not become drawn to James upon meeting him at the pier. Her very existence is bound to him from the moment of her creation. That event is thoroughly explored in the Born from a Wish sub-scenario, available only in the director's cut version of the original Silent Hill 2, and depicts her first appearance in chronological order. Although meant to be played after the main storyline, intended to retroactively offer a deeper insight into Maria's motivation and purpose, examining it first is crucial to a better understanding of her significance in the larger narrative surrounding James's fate. And beyond that, completely reframes the way you perceive her, and perhaps even what you believe her to be. Just a woman, a ghost, or something far more elusive.
Is somebody there? My name is... When I woke up, I was all alone. Everyone's gone. Is it because of those monsters? What do I do now?
A fascinating premise and an even more frightening scenario at the same time. Disoriented and lonely, Maria wakes up in a back room of Heaven's Night, a local strip club in the haunting town of Silent Hill, riddled with monsters and without anybody to rely on, let alone just talk to. In this brief introduction, she experiences an overwhelming range of human emotions at once. Fear, longing, confusion, and a desperate need for connection, all of which underscore the humane and fragile side of her character. Her fear of dying and being alone, coupled with the rapid shifts in her emotions, mirrors the disorientation of a newborn entering the world. Like a child seeking direction and meaning, Maria struggles to anchor herself amidst the uncertainty of her existence. With an inexplicable need to find somebody, Maria sets out on her quest, which leads her to a seemingly abandoned mansion. At first glance, it appears as desolate as the rest of the town, but appearances can be deceiving in Silent Hill. Upon further exploration, she encounters the mansion's supposed owner, Ernest Baldwin. Relieved to have finally found someone to talk to, Maria is surprised when Ernest communicates with her solely through a closed door. Despite being in a town overrun with monsters, he insists on being left alone. And even though it seems like a dead end, Maria refuses to give up. She is determined to engage with him and assures him of her return. Important to note from their conversation is that Ernest, in a rather unsettling manner, tries to draw a parallel between himself and Maria.
Perhaps it's we who are insane. Both of us. Hopelessly insane.
A key remark that will become relevant further down the line. While searching the mansion for various other clues about this place, you find a birthday card that is addressed from Amy Baldwin to her father.
Give it
to my daddy.
In the second conversation, Ernest reveals that Amy died in a terrible accident, leaving him restless and consumed by profound grief for the past 10 years. Her sudden appearance with Amy's card stirs the emotions of the otherwise grumpy and reserved Ernest, who still clings to the memories of his daughter.
I've never forgotten. Maria? Some things we forget, and some things we can never forget.
Another particularly significant remark, as the loss and recovery of memories is a central mechanism that Silent Hill utilizes on its residents and visitors, and Maria is no exception to that. Ernest then expresses his gratitude for Maria's kind gesture and makes an ambiguous remark about her nature, noting her ability to see and talk to him. However, he remains deliberately vague about his revelation, as he quickly seizes the opportunity of this surprising encounter. As a final request, Ernest tasks Maria to find a bottle containing a white liquid, one that he can't retrieve himself anymore. Through context clues around the mansion, she realizes that Ernest wants to perform some sort of rebirth ritual to bring Amy back to life. And although Maria is doubtful towards his proposal, she grants him his favor anyway.
Well, that's okay. I don't mind fighting for an impossible cause. Anyway, it beats just giving up and doing nothing.
Echoing the same firm resolve to survive and fight that she had in the beginning of the sub-scenario. During the search for the white liquid, the game offers glimpses into Maria's mind, while still maintaining the purposeful ambiguity. This is exemplified by her comment on the stuffed toys she finds in Amy's bedroom. As briefly pointed out in the beginning, Laura, the young girl James encounters numerous times during the main story, is later revealed to have befriended Mary during their time together at the hospital. The subtle detail that Maria subconsciously remembers Laura's name while simultaneously questioning who she is heavily hints at Maria's connection to Mary's memories to some capacity. This connection will come up later again, and I'll delve into the full implications of this in a bit. After delivering the white liquid, Maria and Ernest share one final conversation. Relieved at last from his 10-year-long burden, Ernest claims that the gods are present in Silent Hill, and that Maria should know so too, since she was born in this town.
I'm not sure God is the right word.
Defiant in her response, Maria reluctantly begins to piece together, little by little, the true nature of her being. Ernest then asks Maria if she believes in fate. Initially, she dismisses the question with no, but her curiosity compels her to know what his response would have been had she replied otherwise. Considering everything that has happened thus far, Maria begins to question whether her actions throughout this journey were truly driven by her own free will, or if fate is the underlying force behind it all. Could it explain her enigmatic existence, her sudden memories, the monsters haunting the empty town, and the extraordinary circumstances of her meeting with Ernest? What if her very existence hinges on a predetermined purpose, a role she is destined to fulfill, whatever that might be?
That James, he's a bad man.
And for a second time, Maria's mind is invaded by Mary's memories.
Yes. I know.
And Maria seems to know who that James person might be.
He's looking for the you that isn't you.
Because he's kind?
but her memories recall James as a good person, the opposite of what Ernest claims. Ernest's cryptic statements imply how James embodies both Maria's fate and her potential doom. A man who neither wants nor cares for Maria as she truly is, but only for the person she reminds him of. The growing uncertainty inside of her pushes Maria to ask Ernest if he knows something regarding her future, but before he is able to answer, she rapidly cuts him off.
Anyway, that's just what you think. You don't really know anything. That's fine.
Maria deflects any form of interpretation about her existence and everything tied to it, because delving into that question would bring immense pain and suffering. Yet, the truth about herself is inevitable, as she opens the door and finds nothing but an empty room, with Ernest nowhere to be seen. On the desk lies Amy's birthday card she retrieved earlier, along with the birthday gift that was meant for Ernest on the day that Amy died. All this time, Maria has been talking to a ghost, just another restless soul that was trapped in Silent Hill, unable to move on. Even without a single spoken word, she received an answer to her question. Maria is no ordinary human. She is a supernatural being created by the town, similar but not necessarily the same as Ernest, as he claimed in their first encounter. Although Maria might not fully understand what she is just yet, her fragmented memories and awareness of her artificial nature prove to herself that she is far from normal. A painful reality that didn't need any confirmation from Ernest, and one that she must eventually come to terms with on her own. In the final cutscene of the Born from a Wish sub-scenario, we see a Maria that is visibly broken and shocked. The existential truth too heavy to bear, and with a fate foretold that spells nothing but doom. What's the point in going forward with all of this? And for a moment, she contemplates ending it all right then and there. Except that would go against everything Maria stands for. At the height of her existential crisis, and in an act of symbolic defiance, she refuses to take the easy way out and decides to fight, even if the odds of success seem impossible. Maria won't accept the truth of her artificial nature, nor Ernest's doomful description of James or her fate, and decides to live in a delusion. Thanks to her recently uncovered memories, and with an everlasting desire to not be alone, Maria begins to wander through the foggy streets into the unknown, murmuring James's name.
James.
A subtle yet powerful representation of Maria's role in his story.
Mary? No, you're not.
Do I look like your girlfriend? My name is Maria.
I can't believe it. Your face, your voice, you could be...
My name is Maria. I'm just messing with you.
Maria's character carries a deeply tragic trait, one that Born from a Wish masterfully establishes within its short runtime. Her yearning for agency and self-determination, the wish to be real and to be accepted as such. This desire is one of the most poignant aspects of her character, standing in stark conflict with the fate she is bound to and the role she was created to fulfill. The main story, set after the events of the Born from a Wish sub-scenario, has the protagonist James enter the fog-ridden town after miraculously receiving a letter from his wife, whom he believed had died from a terminal illness 3 years ago. This premise is as ominous as it is haunting, because James is irresistibly drawn into the town to uncover the truth. After exploring the empty, foggy streets and encountering the aforementioned characters and other monstrous beings, he arrives at the pier of Rosewater Park in the hopes of finding his and Mary's special place, which he referenced in the letter. But to James's disappointment, it isn't Mary who is waiting for him at the pier.
No. You're not.
Do I look like your girlfriend?
Maria's resemblance to James's late wife is both uncanny and eerie, a motif that reverberates throughout Silent Hill 2 in numerous ways.
I don't look like a ghost, do I? See? Warm.
Sorry, I got confused.
This peculiar remark, followed by her attempt to touch James, directly references Maria's earlier encounter with Ernest and reflects her subconscious refusal to believe she might be a ghost like him. Her existential desperation stemming from the fear of being anything other than a normal human being becomes evident in these first few moments of her introduction. Her demeanor also sharply contrasts with the one depicted in Born from a Wish. Now, her behavior is more confident, seductive, and almost unpredictable. Although her voice, face, and stature match that of Mary, her overall appearance does not. From the final parts of the game, we learn that Mary wears her brown hair in a bun and enjoys floral dresses, representative of her reserved, gentle, and benevolent nature. A quality also echoed in the way she writes her letters to James and Laura. Maria, on the other hand, is much bolder and more outgoing in her appearance, wearing short blonde hair with dyed pink ends, a vibrant red leather jacket and leather choker, pink nail polish, and a striking butterfly tattoo on her collarbone. But how could this be? How can Maria be so similar that James mistook her for his wife, yet so different at the same time, especially in this town of all places, just as he is looking for his wife?
Aren't you from this town?
It's a bit complicated.
The answer to that lies in the extraordinary circumstances of her creation and the purpose of the game's overall narrative. At its core, the story of Silent Hill 2 is a psychological exploration of human emotions and the profound impact of trauma. James wrestles with his guilt, desires, and weight of his choices, his subconscious ultimately demanding punishment and self-reflection, an internal journey in which Maria plays a pivotal role. Maria's identity and existence can be described as consisting of two key components. For one, she is a manifestation of James's suppressed sexual desires and his idealized vision of Mary. Maria's second half stems directly from Mary's memories, as briefly shown in the sub-scenario, as well as from her deep emotions and her intense wish for a different reality. That wish, fueled by the loss of her beauty, her possibilities, future, and even James, was so powerful that it played a significant role in the creation of Maria, hence the title Born from a Wish. That desire is also partly stated in the letter Mary addressed to Laura.
I wish things were different. I wish we could be happy together, like we talked about.
Which expresses her dream to adopt her if things had been different. In Silent Hill, the subconscious can, for better or worse, manifest and create a new reality. And so, As the story progresses, and in order to reconcile with his actions, James is forced to relive the horrible fate that befell Mary in the form of Maria. In consequence, Maria's very own fate and existence are inseparably tied to James's suffering and torment, which explains why they both perceive the same monstrous creatures in the fog. Of course, James doesn't realize any of that yet and is understandably hesitant to humor the seemingly too good to be true Maria. Unlike Mary's reserved and gentle personality, Maria is flirtatious, assertive, and emotionally expressive, tools she uses to reach her goal.
It's okay. So, what do the letters say?
She said she was waiting for me in our special place.
And that's here? Anyway, I haven't seen her.
In this moment, Maria knows exactly what James is looking for, and he is staring directly at it, without even realizing.
I don't know anymore. There was something. I can't quite.
Hey! I think I might know. I mean, there's this one place. Not far from here.
In a subtle movement, she blocks the light coming from the Lakeview Hotel, where the truth about Mary's death lies hidden amidst the fog. Instead, Maria suggests a different place.
I can show you if you want. Unless you have somewhere else to be. Something else to do.
Leading James on a significant detour that spans the majority of the game and even insisting on accompanying him. With the context of Born from a Wish in mind, Maria's behavior at the pier reveals not only her fear of abandonment, but also her desperation to shift James's attention onto her. Her actions, though manipulative, mark a necessary step in her journey to spend enough time with James, hoping to replace his need for Mary with a need for herself. Only by doing so can she ensure a chance at surviving and escaping her fate.
Come on, don't give me that look.
Am I crazy?
Maria's relationship with James is a poignant representation of the human desire to escape pain, the destructive consequences of guilt, and the futility of trying to replace what has been lost. While Pyramid Head can be seen as a manifestation created to physically torture and punish James, ultimately forcing him to confront the truth he is trying to suppress, Maria embodies the psychological counterpart of his torment, a constant temptation challenging his conflicting feelings of love, hatred, and guilt over killing his own wife. Though as much as Maria represents a truth James must eventually face, his dismissive behavior also reveals a painful truth to her. That no matter how hard she tries to earn his affection, she will always remain a shadow of Mary, a creation of his guilt and desire, unable to fulfill the deep emotional needs he once had, and will fade away once her purpose is served. Just like James, she as well lives in denial and suppresses her traumatic memories.
Is everything all right?
Yeah, it's just... this place... it just gives me the creeps. I'm not sure why.
You ever been inside?
sure. It does feel familiar somehow. Like a bad memory. It's nothing, really.
Ever since that moment in the alleyway at the end of Born from a Wish, something inside Maria's psyche shattered. Much like James, who experienced a mental breakdown in the restroom at the beginning of the game, Maria experienced a similar breakdown. Her subconscious suppresses the entire encounter with Ernest, most importantly, the truth of her nature as an artificial construct and his doomful description of James and her fate. The reconstruction of her own memories and those of Mary that dwell within her are a central element of Maria's character arc, subtly established in the sub-scenario. Throughout most of their interactions, Maria acts confident, flirtatious, and overtly seductive.
Oh, come on. You said we look alike? At least give me something.
Well, she liked to play the piano. I'm not sure if you're really that much alike.
Oh? I don't strike you as the pianist type?
She persistently tries to draw closer to James, both emotionally and physically, often questioning him about Mary and the feelings he still harbors for his wife.
3 years. That's a long time. What will you tell her when you find her?
That I love her.
Oh, then. Lucky her.
What's that supposed to mean?
Nothing. Like I said, 3 years is a long time.
The undertone of Maria's flirtatious advances, tinged with a subtle jealousy toward Mary, effectively conveys her underlying fear that she might never be enough for James, as she is now. Maria's attempts to manipulate James's emotions are often paired with moments of immediate consolation, offering the kind of comfort and attentiveness that Mary in her illness was unable to provide.
Want to take a breather?
What? No, Sorry, I'm just a bit preoccupied.
It's fine. You know, if there's anything you want to talk about, anything at all.
No. Let's just keep moving.
This stark contrast reflects James's subconscious desire for a version of Mary unburdened by her suffering, a fantasy Maria tries to fulfill. Yet, her efforts to grow closer to him are repeatedly rejected, as his guilt and loyalty to Mary fortify his resistance against the temptations Silent Hill presents. On the way to the special place Maria mentioned at the pier, they must first pass through Heaven's Night, the same club Maria woke up in during the Born from a Wish sub-scenario. This location carries multiple symbolic elements, particularly the color red. Not only is red the color of Maria's outfit, but it is also strongly associated with passion, temptation, and danger, as well as life, blood, and rebirth. Additionally, it mirrors the red squares that serve as save points in the game, which themselves carry a wealth of symbolic meaning. Most notably, the graffiti features the word wish, a nod to Maria's origin story and her deep connection to Mary. Lastly, a pink butterfly can be found, corresponding to the tattoo on Maria's collarbone. Depending on the ending you receive, the full contents of the real letter from Mary addressed to James are revealed, and within lies a subtle reference to the choice of the butterfly tattoo.
Well, I'm alone there now, in our special place, waiting for you to come and see me. But you never do. So, I wait, wrapped in my cocoon of pain and loneliness. I know I've done a terrible thing to you. I wish I could change that, but I can't. I feel so pathetic and ugly laying here.
Though Mary knows she cannot undo the past, her wish lingers, taking form in an unexpected way. Out of that cocoon of pain and ugliness shaped by her illness, Maria emerges like a beautiful butterfly, a healthier, more alluring version of Mary, embodying how Mary might have wished to be seen and desired by James. In the context of Maria's character, the butterfly stands for rebirth, elegance, and most importantly, freedom. Freedom from suffering and the longing to transcend pain and entrapment. Yet, the cruelty of her fate perverts the intended meaning, dooming her to a relentless cycle of death and rebirth, and transforming what should represent freedom into a mark of perpetual imprisonment and suffering. The symbolic representation of Maria as a butterfly can also be seen in the many drawings from Laura. In one of them, she draws herself as a bunny, pursued and threatened by an evil-looking wolf, alluding to James. Next to it, we see not only Maria's butterfly, but also a flower that in turn is emblematic of Mary. From the floral pattern on her dress and on the blanket covering her corpse in the backseat of James's car, the flowers in the moonlight grove, her rejection of the flower bouquet James brings her, and finally to Laura's drawing on the wall in the leaf ending, depicting a sickly-looking Mary holding a flower. The flower symbol, accompanied by the butterfly, is a striking visual cue that reinforces the undeniable connection between Maria and Mary. After entering Heaven's Night, Maria attempts to playfully seduce James by performing on the dance pole.
What? Come on, don't give me that look. I was just kidding.
But is unfortunately met with resistance, so she quickly shifts to a more emotionally vulnerable stance, which immediately proves to be effective.
This place, this whole thing, it's like a nightmare. I just wanted to get away from it, even for a second. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I guess this place is getting to me, too.
As James then empathizes with her sentiment, showing a rare sign of self-awareness. During this interaction, James opens up to her and expresses how he starts to believe he might be crazy for thinking his dead wife could possibly be in this town.
Crazy is one word for it, I guess. I can think of another.
What's that?
Hopeful.
Like Maria, James too craves hope and compassion. She empathizes with his feelings, reassuring him that his motivations stem from a place of kindness. And this might not just be a persuasion tactic, but genuinely how she sees him at this point in time.
Because he's kind?
As the memories and feelings of Mary, which are undoubtedly intertwined with moments involving James, inevitably influence Maria's perception of him.
It's true, he can be a little surly sometimes, and he doesn't laugh much. But underneath, he's a really sweet person.
More importantly, her words reflect her own unyielding hope in her pursuit of being chosen by James, emphasizing her belief that her efforts will not be in vain, but part of a purposeful journey toward a shared destiny. It is also interesting to note how James's sentiment,
I guess this place is getting to me, too. Am I crazy?
in a way mirrors that of Ernest.
But how can you say that it's this town that's insane? Perhaps it's we who are insane. Both of us, hopelessly insane.
to which Maria offers a shift in perspective.
I can think of another.
What's that?
Hopeful.
Turning the hopeless insanity into hopefulness, characteristic for a generally optimistic personality. By labeling James as hopeful, much like herself, she subtly frames them as the perfect match and weaves herself into his narrative, striving to become an inseparable part of the hope he desperately clings to. Maria then finally offers James a drink, hoping to loosen him up and increase the chances of him to fall for her seduction. James seems entranced by the glass, barely able to lift his gaze from it, hinting that he may have turned to alcohol as a way to cope with Mary's illness. Still, his willpower remains strong and he resists her temptations once again, if only barely.
No? You sure? Fine. Be that way. Here's to hope, undying.
A bittersweet plea filled with both optimism and melancholy, echoing a deeper wish that his hope might one day shift from Mary to her.
That's it? A garden?
There's a bit more to it than that. It's probably just a fairy tale.
After their short respite at Heaven's Night, Maria fulfills her promise and takes James to the place two lovers might call special, or better known as the Moonlight Grove, one of the few locations in Silent Hill where flowers still bloom. At the garden center stands a statue of the Lady of the Light, about whom Maria recounts a romantic story of unyielding hope and unwavering determination. According to the tale, each night a man would row across the lake, guided solely by the candlelight held by his beloved on the shore, determined to be with her.
But this one night, a terrible storm broke out. Caught him out in the open, and it blew out the candle.
In consequence, the man was lost in darkness, but he would not give up nor turn back until he reached her. Still, in the end, the man dies heroically in a storm while fighting to reach the woman he loves.
They say even then, the woman never lost hope. She kept coming out at night, kept lighting the candle to bring her beloved home, to lead him to shore.
The man's death stands as a testament to the lengths one might go for love, reinforcing the romanticized ideal of love as something worthy of any sacrifice. There is a tragic beauty in the woman's unwavering hope amidst the uncertainty, carrying a faint undercurrent of sadness and loneliness, a sentiment Maria knows all too well. Yet, at its heart, the tale conveys a noble message: the courage to defy forces greater than oneself and the enduring power of love to transcend even the deepest loss. On a narrative level, the tale also serves as a veiled foreshadowing of James's potential demise, particularly the in-water ending of the game. A warning that his unrelenting pursuit and obsession to find Mary might result in the same way as the tale describes it. Just as the man perishes in his attempt to reach the light, James too may lose his life. In consequence of his obsessive search for Mary, he is consumed by his own emotional storm of guilt and grief that ultimately drives him to end his own life in the lake. However, Maria's retelling about the Lady of Light differs significantly from the supposedly original version found in the Historical Society. A historical museum containing photographs, paintings, and artifacts about Silent Hill's past, many of which refer to the dark practices that have taken place over the last few decades. This version goes into much more detail about the woman and the cause of the man's death, painting a more nuanced and tragic picture. As in Maria's version, the man fell in love with the woman. However, this version explains that it was because of her eyes, which were as bright and beautiful as the moon. The woman was wrongly convicted, as the man believed, and condemned to stay on the island. Every night he would follow her guiding candlelight and secretly meet up with her in the hopes of eventually escaping together. On the night of the man's death, however, the sky was exceptionally clear and the moon shone so bright that it completely overpowered the candle, thus distracting him from his original goal. Utterly mesmerized by the illusory light and in an impossible attempt to reach the reflecting moonlight, the man weakened, and as waves tipped over his boat, he met his end in the water. Nevertheless, the woman never lost hope and kept coming out every night with a lit candle, trying to bring her beloved home. This begs the question: how come Maria left out the crucial detail about the moon's influence in her story? Her true intentions become clearer by analyzing the symbolism in both versions of the tale, using the one from the Historical Society as the reference point. The convicted woman, sentenced to remain on the island and die a slow, excruciating death, represents Mary. This connection is emphasized by the statue of the Lady of the Light, which bears a striking resemblance to Mary's physical likeness and is surrounded by blooming flowers, an emblematic symbol of Mary. Her unjust condemnation mirrors Mary's incurable illness and eventual death. The island on which she was cast out finds resemblance in the Lakeview Hotel, where the truth about her fate is buried deep within James's subconscious. Although accused of being a witch, the woman continues to appear every night clinging to hope, portraying her in truth as a tragic saint and as someone who has been unjustly punished.
Who is that?
Just a woman. Killed for no real fault of her own by moral, upstanding folk. Common theme, I guess.
What do you mean?
In history, you know?
The man determined to reach his beloved on the shore represents James, as he later even rows across Toluca Lake to reach the hotel. Just as the man believes the woman's condemnation is unfair, James likely views Mary's illness as an equally cruel and undeserved fate. The guiding candlelight held by the woman mirrors both the illusion of Mary's letter from the beginning of the game that leads him to Silent Hill in the first place, as well as the light seen at the pier and the boat sequence. Lastly, the moon, with the power to influence the Earth's tides through gravitational force, symbolizes Maria. This connection is reflected by the crescent moon with the cross on the bracelet she wears, a symbol tied to the occult, and by the title of the song Beneath the Null Moon, which only plays when James encounters her for the first time at the pier. The allure of the moon in the story is particularly powerful because it mirrors the woman's eyes, the very feature the man fell in love with. In this sense, James can only fall for Maria because she embodies the most beautiful aspects of Mary.
You're not.
Do I look like your girlfriend?
No, my late wife. I can't believe it. Your face, your voice, you could be...
My name is Maria.
Just like the moon, Maria too distracts James from his path by blocking the light at the pier and intentionally leading him on a detour. weakens him with her relentless seduction attempts and confusion, and ultimately leads him to his death, where James doesn't literally drown like in the in-water ending of the game, but instead drowns in the illusion of a false Mary and continues living in denial, a fate reflected in the Maria ending. Maria's retelling of the legend isn't merely about simplifying it. Her changes serve a deliberate purpose. Contrary to her version of the tale, the man's love leads to his demise not through courage, but through misjudgment, obsession, and a false hope, thus altering the nature of the story from a cautionary tale to one of transcending love and devotion. Furthermore, by omitting the influence of the moon, she avoids comparisons to her own role as an illusion and construct of Silent Hill, designed to test James. By emphasizing the woman's devotion, Maria seeks to align herself with these virtues, subtly positioning herself as someone worthy of such profound love and loyalty, hoping James will see her as the unwavering hope and comfort he desires, echoing their conversation at Heaven's Night.
Here's to hope, undying.
Maria's true intentions also find representation in the composition of this garden. Given how flowers are emblematic of Mary and the color red stands for Maria, the red flower tops could be interpreted as an attempt of Maria to insert herself into Mary's role, both in the tale and the game's narrative.
Whatever you say. I mean, any port in a storm, right?
I guess so.
This is also referenced in a notice at the flower shop, which precisely warns of the misfortune that comes with mixing red and white flowers. Regardless of her efforts, James remains fixated on his search for Mary, and his frustration grows as he realizes he hasn't gotten any closer to finding her since meeting Maria. Despite not enchanting him with a romantic story, Maria still manages to create a fleeting moment of vulnerability in James, offering him comfort without triggering his usual instinct to pull away, and inching ever so subtly closer to his heart.
Maybe you should rest.
Yeah. Thanks for checking up on me. It's very sweet of you.
Yeah. I thought you wanted to get out of here.
I know. It's just...
Maria's tragedy deepens as her plan to delay James's confrontation with Mary becomes a double-edged sword. While it prolongs her existence, it also binds her fate to his unraveling mind. Nowhere is this more evident than in the Brookhaven Hospital, where the early echoes of Mary's illness manifest in Maria. Overcome by the sudden weakness, she avoids James for the first time, perhaps fearing that her vulnerability might diminish her appeal.
Hey. You okay?
I'm sorry.
That's fine. What's going on? Are you hurt?
It's nothing. Probably just a hangover.
As James grows closer to uncovering the truth about his crime, his suppressed memories create an uncanny parallel of Mary's time in the hospital. This results in a projection of Mary's suffering onto Maria, forcing her to endure the physical pain and abandonment that defined his late wife during her 3-year-long illness, and blurring the lines between Maria's own identity and the reflection of Mary she was created to be, more than ever before. But instead of staying by her side, James prioritizes finding Laura and indirectly repeats the same pattern of neglect and emotional distancing he once inflicted on Mary during her illness, but this time with Maria.
I wanted to ask you. What if you can't find Mary? What will you do?
I haven't really thought about that.
Get back soon, okay?
The stark deterioration from Maria's vibrant and confident demeanor to a state of sickness and vulnerability underscores the cruelty of her tragic fate. She can only exist as long as James suffers, and the more he endures, the more her own pain intensifies.
I'll be okay. Just need a bit more rest.
This creates a deliberate spiral of pain, highlighting her powerlessness over her own fate and revealing her role as nothing more than a construct of James's subconscious. Designed as an idealized version of Mary, Maria's suffering is meant to trigger profound emotional turmoil in James, acting as a catalyst for his eventual reckoning with the murder he committed. At a certain point, when James comes looking after Maria, he finds only an empty bed, with no indication of where she might have gone. After journeying alone for a while and facing unimaginable horrors, he is eventually dragged away by a monster and wheeled down the hospital hallways into its otherworldly counterpart, marking his deeper descent into the darkness of his own subconscious. As soon as James comes to his senses and fights his way through this nightmarish world, he unexpectedly reunites with Maria, though once again she gets disappointed by his lack of care.
Mary! Oh. Maria, I thought... Sorry. Anyway, I'm glad you're alive.
Anyway? What do you mean, anyway? I was almost killed back there. I have never been so scared in my whole life. All you care about is that dead wife of yours. You couldn't care less about me, could you?
And unfortunately, she is right. Even in the face of her apparent peril, his relief is overshadowed by his fixation on Mary. A brutal reminder that James thinks of her as nothing more than an echo of his dead wife. Maria's distress in the scene stems not only from being left behind in a vulnerable state, but from a deeper emotional and existential wound. All this time, she has sought James's affection through seduction and empathy, yearning for his validation. However, his repeated rejections have begun to wear on her psyche and test her patience. Under the weight of her existential crisis, her mask of confidence finally slips, exposing her genuine terror of her death and desperate will to survive. The fact that her life was just in danger, and yet the one person meant to care for her shows little regard for her well-being, only deepens her suffering.
No, I just...
Then stay with me. Don't leave me alone again. You're supposed to take care of me.
Her desperate plea to James, echoing Mary's own need for protection and affection during her time in the hospital, goes beyond a simple desire for him to stay. It reflects her deeper wish to be seen as real, someone worthy of love and care, transcending the confines of her existence as a mere creation. It is notable once again that James has warmed up enough to Maria to allow her to lean on his shoulder for comfort, demonstrating her steady progress with him. Despite her own loneliness and suffering, Maria remains deeply concerned for the well-being of others, particularly Laura. Just as James gradually unearths his suppressed memories while delving deeper into his subconscious, Maria too begins to access more and more of Mary's memories, including her time with Laura in the hospital, which drives her profound sense of care and responsibility toward the child.
I just feel sorry for her. She's all alone and... I don't know, for some reason I feel like it's up to me to protect her. Come on, let's go look for her.
Mary deeply resonated with Laura's loneliness, a feeling that was passed down to Maria. This moment also neatly ties back to the one scene from the Born from a Wish sub-scenario, where Maria recalls Laura's name for the first time. Later, in Mary's letter addressed to Laura, it is revealed how she wished for things to be different.
I love you, Laura. I love you like my very own daughter. I wish things were different. I wish we could be happy together, like we talked about.
A wish that played a significant role in the creation of Maria, and one that she now subconsciously tries to fulfill. Before stepping through a secret passage, Maria hesitates noticeably, driven by her inherent sensitivity to pain and fear of death.
Something doesn't feel right.
However, James convinces her by offering his hand, providing Maria with the comfort and protection she so desperately craves. Tragically, this gesture offers only a false sense of security as they are soon ambushed by Pyramid Head. In a terrifying chasing sequence, James manages to reach the elevator just in time, while Maria stumbles behind, struggling to keep up. Desperately, James tries to hold the elevator doors open for her, but it's too late. James watches in horror as Maria is impaled by his Punisher. Despite having the opportunity to kill them both at once, Pyramid Head deliberately chooses to slaughter only Maria, ensuring James is forced to witness her death. This calculated act aligns with Pyramid Head's relentless methodology of inflicting the greatest possible torment on James. The irony is devastating. Just moments before, Maria had begged James to protect her, only for Silent Hill to cruelly expose his inability to do so shortly thereafter. Her death, in the end, is as brutal as it is symbolic. For James, Maria's death is more than just a painful reenactment of his failure to save Mary during her illness. It is also a haunting reminder of the darker truth he is suppressing. That he, with his own hands, ended Mary's life. While he may not fully grasp the connection yet, the scene highlights the inescapable weight of his guilt, intertwining his feelings of helplessness and culpability. For Maria, it is a devastating confirmation of her deepest fears. That she is not truly loved, not truly important to James, and ultimately not truly able to escape her doomed fate.
You said you took everything. But you forgot that videotape we made. I wonder if it's still there. I am here for you, James.
The events in the elevator hallway, steeped in overwhelming desperation and loss, initiate the cycle of tragedy and pain that engulfs Maria and accelerates her diminishing control over her own actions. From this point onward, James must face the horrors of Silent Hill on his own. In doing so, he descends further into the depths of his own personal hell, while becoming entangled in Angela's scorching agony and confronting the darkness of her suffering. As he traverses deeper and deeper into the abyss of Toluca prison and the subsequent labyrinth, he unexpectedly encounters a shockingly familiar face.
Maria? Maria! I thought that thing killed you. Are you hurt?
Not at all, silly.
But the thing... It stabbed you. There was blood everywhere.
Stabbed me? What do you mean?
It chased us to the elevator and then...
James, what are you talking about?
Somehow, Maria was reborn by the mysterious forces of Silent Hill and trapped in this jail cell. James, both relieved and confused, is extremely unsure of how to process this encounter. Her miraculous reappearance after her brutal death evokes a deeply discomforting and uneasy feeling, marking this scene as one of the most psychologically and symbolically rich moments in the game. The tone is eerie and haunting, imbued with an undercurrent of menace and seduction. Dimmed light partially obscures Maria's face as she sits chillingly calm in the middle of the room. Behind her, an ominous-looking hospital bed. This harrowing atmosphere is amplified by Maria's deeply complex and multi-layered demeanor, transforming the scene into a profoundly surreal experience. She acts flirtatious, manipulative, furious, and evasive all at once. At one moment, Maria speaks in a playful and tender tone reminiscent of Mary, casually dismissing both her death and her seemingly miraculous resurrection, as if nothing had happened.
James? Honey? Did something happen to you? After we got separated in that long hallway? Are you confusing me with someone else?
Her stiff, almost detached body language, paired with her light-hearted attempt to gaslight James, radiates a quiet intensity, similar to the calm before the storm. She also recalls shared moments in the hotel, memories that in truth were never hers to begin with.
How do you know about that? Aren't you Maria?
I'm not your Mary.
In the next moment, she acts seductive and vulnerable, tempting James to succumb to his desires while gently caressing his cheek, her touch more sensual than ever before. A gesture that must have reminded him of Mary's displays of affection, mirrored at the beginning of the game when James touches the same spot on his face, as if he can still feel the warmth of her hand. It is also echoed in the Stillness ending, where Mary reaches out from the backseat in a similar manner to soothe James's tormented soul.
It's okay.
This amalgamation of emotions and the ambiguous nature of her reappearance challenges James's understanding of reality and illusion, reshaping the perception of Maria's character in real time and ramping up the psychological horror significantly. Even for Maria, her unchosen resurrection is a reckoning in every sense. Much like how the other characters in Silent Hill 2 face the truth about their past, Maria finally faces the devastating truth about the nature of her own existence. She is an illusion, born from the wishes and desires of others, a psychological construct created with the sole purpose of serving the town and James's subconscious. Her instinctive fear and the near existential breakdown she experienced before meeting James ultimately turned out to be justified and confirm what she so desperately wanted to deny. This realization brings with it the dark clarity that Maria has always been part of a larger, painful narrative she cannot escape. At the same time, her rebirth is a cruel affirmation that her earlier contemplation of suicide would have changed absolutely nothing. Her choice was never truly her own free will, mere wishful thinking. This existential agony might almost be enough to break her spirit, filling her with anger and spite not only against her fate, but also in grand parts against James. Because, in many ways, Maria's death was James's fault, seeing how she was quite reluctant to enter the door at first, yet died only moments later. But there is even more to this. By venturing deeper into Silent Hill, and by extension, deeper into the darkest corners of James's subconscious, and closer to the truth his mind is suppressing, Maria gains access to even more of Mary's memories. This growing awareness, coupled with her death at the hands of Pyramid Head and subsequent resurrection, leads her to begin uncovering the truth behind James's crime, and consequently to a deeper understanding of the events unfolding within Silent Hill. From Maria's perspective, her death by Pyramid Head, a manifestation intrinsically tied to James's psyche and in many ways his mirror image, represents not only another crushing form of rejection, but also, on a deeper level, a profound betrayal. Not only was her trust in James's ability to protect her shattered during the harrowing events in the elevator hallway, but her growing recollection of Mary's memories has also revealed the unsettling truth about James's darkest act: the murder of Mary. To Maria, who is intrinsically tied to Mary both emotionally and symbolically, this revelation feels like a betrayal on multiple levels. James's crime is no longer just a distant truth, but one that directly wounds her connection to Mary, leaving her to carry the weight of both her own anguish and Mary's suffering. This realization is a turning point for Maria. Her relationship with James, once driven by her desperate will to survive and the hope of being protected by the good, kind man she believed him to be, is now irreparably tainted.
It's true, he can be a little surly sometimes, and he doesn't laugh much. But underneath, he's a really sweet person.
Because he's kind?
The person she relied on as her savior has become the source of her anguish, forcing her to abandon any illusions of safety and adopt a hardened resolve to fend for herself. This simmering fury infuses a sinister and menacing undertone into her dialogue with James. Yet, driven by a relentless will to survive, despite confronting her own truth, Maria suppresses her anguish and strengthens the facade to align with his desires. In order to convince James that she is the perfect choice for him, she adopts Mary's mannerisms and speech patterns, embodying her role more fully than ever before. However, even as she immerses herself in this imitation, she remains steadfast in her demand to be acknowledged as her own person.
Aren't you Maria?
I'm not your Mary.
So you are Maria.
I am. If you want me to be.
All I want from you is an answer.
It doesn't matter who I am.
And for the first time, James visibly wrestles with his emotions, torn between the allure of Maria's advances and the heavy guilt that burdens him.
See? I'm real. Don't you want to touch me?
In the end, Maria is a prisoner in every sense. On a literal level, she is physically confined in a cage beside a hospital bed, mirroring Mary's own feelings of isolation and entrapment during her illness. And on a metaphorical level, the prison setting reflects her existential imprisonment within James's subconscious, the will of the town, and the purpose for which she was created. Confronted with a suffocating reality such as this, one would expect Maria to give in to her fate. Instead, her fighting spirit remains unbroken, and with an air of hope and melancholy, she sits there and waits, humming the theme of promise. The profound tragedy of Maria's cycle of death and rebirth becomes painfully evident as James finally reaches the other side of the jail cell bars. There, he finds Maria lying on the hospital bed, lifeless, having succumbed to the same illness that claimed Mary. If Maria's sudden weakness in the Brookhaven hospital mirrored the onset of Mary's condition, this scene starkly reflects her final moments. During much of his journey through Silent Hill, James has navigated his subconscious in a state of emotional numbness, reflecting his detachment from the weight of his actions and grief. However, in this harrowing moment, James is confronted with the loss of yet another woman to the same cruel fate that once claimed Mary. And for a moment, he is overwhelmed by a surge of raw emotion. The pain of Maria's death blurs with the repressed anguish of losing Mary, pulling to the surface a fleeting but visceral glimpse of his sorrow. The resting pillow beside the bed serves as a quiet but haunting reminder of James's role in Mary's demise, subtly implicating him in the recurring tragedy. But as quickly as the enormity of Maria's death begins to settle in, James's obsession overtakes him once again, shifting his focus back to his relentless pursuit.
Mary.
Leaving the heartbreaking echoes of Maria's sacrifice behind. At its core, this scene is a microcosm of Maria's tragic existence. Each attempt to break free from her role is met with inevitable despair, leaving her trapped in a pattern of hopelessness. Her resurrection is not a second chance at life, but a cruel mechanism of the town, condemning her to endure endless pain. She remains tethered to her purpose as a manifestation of James's fractured psyche, serving as either the force that undoes him, the illusion that keeps him trapped, or the catalyst that pushes him toward acceptance. The symbolic elegance, rebirth, and freedom suggested by the butterfly tattoo, one of Maria's character-defining design aspects, proves to be nothing more than an illusion. Trapped in her very own cocoon of pain and loneliness crafted by James's subconscious, she is forced to repeatedly endure both emotional and physical suffering until her purpose is fulfilled, unable to break free by her own will. This duality creates an internal conflict that Maria can never fully resolve on her own. Her entire existence hinges on what James needs her to be and is, in a broader sense, defined by his own suffering. This vicious cycle culminates in the story's most gruesome moment in Maria's character arc.
James!
Maria is reborn once more, only to be captured and executed in front of James by now two Pyramid Heads. His punishers manifested through his guilt of not only having killed Mary, but also Eddie. Maria's final execution crystallizes her tragic fate and the hopelessness of her entire existence in a way that even James can no longer ignore. In this moment, James finally breaks under the crushing weight of her relentless suffering and the profound agony it inflicts upon him. He accepts the dark truth of his past and finally grasps the meaning behind Pyramid Head's senseless killings.
I know what you are. I know why I needed you. But it's all over now. I don't need you anymore.
Maria's suffering is the central vehicle for James's reckoning, a psychological torture designed with the purpose of forcing him to confront the truth he so desperately tried to suppress, by repeatedly stripping away what he subconsciously longed for. Having accepted this, James faces both Pyramid Heads in one final, emotional, climactic battle. As he confronts and overcomes his inner demons, the Pyramid Heads impale themselves with their heads now facing upwards in a symbolic way. No longer can James look away from the truth of his crime. His living nightmare is about to come to an end, as Silent Hill finally grants him access to the source of his guilt. Mary.
You're not her.
She's gone, and she's not coming back. If that's true, then why do you look so sad? James, I've always been waiting for you.
Maria's final death at the hands of Pyramid Head serves as the necessary catalyst for James's reckoning, shattering the illusions he has clung to throughout his journey. As involuntary architect of his own personal hell, Maria's fate lies now, more than ever, in the hands of James. Before reaching the finale of the game, James traverses a seemingly endless hallway, Mary's voice echoing through his mind, stirring a whirlwind of emotions. Pain, sorrow, anger, and anxiety. James finally recalls with a striking clarity the profound strain their relationship endured during the 3 long years of her illness. The weight of their shared suffering now undeniable.
Are you deaf? Don't come back! James. Wait. Please. Don't go. Don't leave me alone. I didn't mean what I said. Please. Tell me I'll be okay. Tell me I'm not gonna die.
A sentiment that was directly etched into Maria, and one that reverberates through her entire character arc. Depending on the player's choices up to this point in the game, the endings for James and Maria can vary significantly. As far as Maria's character is concerned, the following final encounter can play out in 2 distinct ways. The first group of endings includes those where James ultimately rejects Maria, such as the leaf and in water endings. Each of them starts the same way, as James climbs the rain-soaked staircase to the top of the building. There, he finds Mary, standing by the window in her familiar floral dress, gazing out into the rain, and beside her, the bed she drew her last breath in. The scene is both achingly beautiful and unbearably heartbreaking, as if time itself has frozen in reverence for this final confrontation. For a brief moment, James and Mary share a sense of relief, as if finding each other in this surreal, almost heavenly space is a reward for enduring the horrors of Silent Hill. It feels like a fleeting promise of reconciliation, a chance to reunite and heal. However, James has already come to terms with her death and the weight of his actions. The surreal comfort of the moment cannot hold, and he quickly realizes that he can no longer cling to this illusion. He knows that this is not the Mary he is looking for, because she simply cannot exist anymore. With genuine empathy, he expresses both his regret for what happened and his determination to move forward.
I know you tried,
James, please.
but she's gone. I know that now,
Stop it.
and I can't just keep pretending.
Shut up! What do you want?
Mary's demeanor shifts abruptly, her desperation giving way to anger and frustration.
I'm here for you. So what if I'm not her? I can give you what she never could. I can be better than her.
Slowly unveiling her true identity as Maria, signaled by the subtle name change in the subtitles and the eerie shift in her eye color from Mary's warm brown to Maria's piercing blue eyes. Throughout the entire game, Maria tried every conceivable way to win James over, appealing to his desires, offering companionship, providing emotional validation, and even evoking pity. Yet, none of these were enough to divert James from his unwavering mission of finding Mary and confronting the guilt that consumes him. Over the course of their time together, Maria endured his continuous rejection, each instance deepening her suffering. The closer they drew to Mary, the more excruciating their journey became, especially for Maria. This mounting anguish is symbolized through her progressive entrapment, which grows increasingly restrictive, starting with her initial freedom to move alongside James, followed by her death in a narrow corridor, then her imprisonment in a tiny jail cell, and later being trapped upside down in a cage. Ultimately, this culminates in the most tragic form of imprisonment, the complete loss of her identity, as she is forced to impersonate Mary rather than simply remain her reflection. Assuming the identity of Mary is Maria's final act of desperation. If she cannot suffice as Maria, then becoming the illusion of Mary must be the key to fulfill James's expectations. Her desperation and fear of vanishing into nothingness are so overwhelming that she is willing to relinquish her own individuality, which she has clung to throughout the entire game so fiercely.
I'm not your Mary.
My name. My name.
My name is Maria.
Because if Maria fails, it would mean the end of her, as her existence is intrinsically tied to her purpose and to James's belief in her.
No.
What?
I won't let you do this to me.
This is Maria's final act of defiance against fate, her purpose, and her existential truth. With no other options left, her emotional armor shatters completely, and she undergoes a grotesque transformation.
I won't let you go. I can't!
becoming a harrowing manifestation of pain and despair. The anguish she endured in Silent Hill, compounded by the suffering Mary experienced during her final days, merges into this monstrous form. Like a dream turned nightmare, the beautiful butterfly that Maria once was has now transformed into a haunting and dark perversion. Her attacks fittingly accompanied by the ominous presence of dark moths. In this climactic moment, James is forced to confront the physical manifestation of his sins and the torment he has caused. As he finally defeats her, Maria collapses to the ground, her body limp and motionless, eerily mirroring Mary's immobilization during her final days. In a heart-wrenching display, she repeatedly calls out his name,
James.
her voice trembling with desperation,
James.
pleading for mercy.
James.
Once again, James puts an end to his wife,
James.
this time symbolically, bringing closure to his nightmare and the cycle of pain that has consumed both him and Maria.
James.
Whether James finds redemption by rediscovering a will to live and leave Silent Hill with Laura, as Mary would have wanted for him, or he succumbs to his grief, ending his life in the lake as foreshadowed by the tale of the Lady of the Light. Maria's tragic end underscores one of the narrative's central themes: the devastating cost of living in denial and the inevitable suffering that accompanies it. This theme reaches its poignant culmination in the Maria ending, which stands in stark contrast to the other endings. Here, James finds Mary sitting on the bed, though this time it is not Maria assuming the identity of Mary in the hopes of deceiving James, but the manifestation of the truth behind his actions. The tone of this ending feels considerably colder and more dismissive, as James keeps his distance to Mary while she can barely stand looking him in the eyes. Mary expresses how she's been waiting all this time for him and pointedly asks if he didn't want to see her. James hesitantly responds she is all he ever wanted.
That's not true. Is it?
In truth, neither of them is genuinely happy to see the other. Mary is deeply heartbroken that James detested her so much that he robbed her of her final precious moments. She feels betrayed, rightfully so, but acknowledges that she couldn't give him the life he longed for, while in the same breath directly addressing the lingering question of Maria.
Can she?
Yet, James's silence speaks volumes. Despite everything he's been through in Silent Hill, James has learned absolutely nothing. He shows no remorse and no signs of guilt for taking Mary's life, justifying his actions only for selfish reasons. Even worse, James has chosen to give in to his desires and replace her with a more attractive-looking Maria. But before he can do so, he has to cut out the part inside of him that still clings to Mary.
Those were the last precious moments I had. How could I ever forgive you?
And so, as James willfully turns away from his final chance to acknowledge his guilt and take responsibility for his actions, Mary transforms into the very same monstrous figure as in the other endings and perishes in the same way, collapsed to the ground, echoing her last moments at home before her death.
James.
Defeating Mary is not a victory in any way, but a grim acknowledgement of loss and failure,
James.
of delusion and denial.
James.
Though Mary's attempt at punishing James for his lack of remorse might have failed, Maria's plan to escape and survive her doomed fate has succeeded, as James now fully embraces the illusion that she represents. What started as a hesitant contact of a stranger soon evolved into gestures that mirror the intimacy of lovers. And as time went by, Maria managed to establish physical contact, gradually conditioning him to grow more at ease with her touch and ultimately win him over. Simultaneously, James, who walked through Silent Hill in a state of almost complete emotional numbness and dissociation, has shown increasing signs of affectionate reactions toward Maria, most notably during her death scenes. In a way, the supposedly original tale about the Lady of the Light, the one Maria deliberately changed, which precisely warned about the dangers of misjudgment and obsession, has predicted this outcome. Maria now believes she has shattered the chains of fate, eager to live beyond the purpose imposed on her at the moment of her creation. Yet, tragically, this dream come true is nothing more than just another illusion. What appears to be the end of her cycle of suffering is in truth the beginning of yet another.
Better do something about that cough.
Because unbeknownst to Maria, her purpose remains unfulfilled. James's path of self-reconciliation and atonement incomplete. Until James takes responsibility in a meaningful way and abandons his selfish justifications for his crime, Maria will remain a puppet, and the worst of her suffering may still lie ahead.
James!
Some fear death, others pray for it. These words, drawn from the manual of the original game, encapsulate the contrasting struggles of Maria and Mary. For Mary, who prayed for release from her suffering, death became a merciful liberation. For Maria, death was the ultimate fear, a fate she was condemned to endure again and again. Maria's story is in many ways Silent Hill 2's most haunting paradox. A desperate plea for life that exists only because of death. Her very existence is a lamentation of the human need for connection and the agony of being forgotten, cast aside when her purpose has been served. Every time she faces death, every time she's reborn, the echoes of her refrain, "I don't want to die," become louder, sharper, more unbearable. But it isn't just the fear of death that defines Maria, it's the fear of insignificance. She wants to matter. She wants to be loved. She wants to be real. And in her own way, she does. Every choice James makes, every moment he spends with Maria is a testament to her influence. Whether she represents the seduction of denial or the fragility of life, Maria's presence is undeniable. The peculiar circumstances that led to her creation in the first place are a crucial aspect of this. While Maria isn't just a reflection of James's desires, she is also a reflection of Mary. The same yearning to escape suffering that defined Mary's wish for a different life now defines Maria's struggle to survive. Mary dreamed of being free from her pain, and from that dream, Maria was born. Her vibrant appearance, her flirtatious confidence, and her resilience are everything Mary could never be in her final days. In this way, Maria becomes both a vessel of James's denial and an echo of Mary's deepest regrets, yet simultaneously embodies a shared, bittersweet hope for a better future that could never be. At the core of her creation, however, lies the essence of her tragedy. Maria's self-awareness of the cruel purpose she was created to serve and her powerlessness that defines her struggle with fate. Yet, her suffering raises a chilling question. Was any of it truly her choice, or did she never have a choice at all? All of Maria's actions, her desperate attempts to connect with James, her apparent manipulations, and even her struggle to survive may not arise from free will at all. As a creation of Silent Hill, Maria is bound by forces far beyond her control. Her existence, no matter how self-aware, is dictated by the environment that birthed her. A cruel mirror of the human condition where free will itself might be an illusion, and where circumstances which shape our traumas, desires, and experiences in turn dictate our choices. However powerless she might be, her undying hope for a better future is what sustains her, defining her journey as one of quiet yet resolute defiance. She fights against the inevitability of her role, against the truths she was created to embody, the limits of her artificial existence, and against the agony of desiring a life that can never truly be her own. But in doing so, she also mirrors James's own struggle, his denial of his actions, his desperate grasp at a distorted version of reality, and his unwillingness to face the truth of his guilt. The two of them are locked in a dance orchestrated by the town, a symbiotic cycle of denial and pain, of longing and loss. And yet, there's a tragic beauty in that defiance. Her refusal to accept the confines of her existence reflects a profoundly human instinct, the tendency to reject a painful reality, the yearning to be more than what we are, to shape our own destinies, and to matter in the lives of others. Silent Hill denies her that, binding her to James's subconscious and rendering her as little more than a projection of his needs. But Maria's tragedy doesn't end there. It transcends her purpose, leaving us with questions that linger long after her final breath. In the end, Maria's story is the story of Silent Hill itself, a place where desire and guilt collide, where truth and illusion blur, and where even the smallest flicker of hope is tinged with despair. As the town forces its inhabitants to confront their truths, she fights to carve out her own identity, only to find herself consumed by the role she was created to fulfill. There is no ending where she can truly escape her suffering. Whether James accepts or rejects her, her existence remains a reflection of his unresolved guilt and trauma, forever tethered to his mind and her purpose, forever a puppet or dead, unable to sever the chains of fate. Maria's struggle may end in tragedy, but it leaves behind a haunting legacy, a reminder that even the most fleeting of existences can leave a profound impact on those who dare to look beyond the fog. Silent Hill asks us to confront the parts of ourselves we would rather leave hidden. And Maria, with her haunting fragility and unyielding strength, forces us to ask one final question. What would you do to be seen?
Mm-hmm.